Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we need to get new officers.
Should we do public comment?
Oh, yeah, there was, oh, yes, Gary Kerr. I'm sorry.
Thank you for adding that. Gary Kerr, Great Mayor, Budget Committee. Just two comments on the presentation. Question with regard to the South currently. Okay. Can they meet the criteria that we're designing in this master plan? If backbone is delayed or some other kind of things come. So that's a question for South Fork. Meet the flow requirements and other things that we're talking about here.
So I didn't, again, you mind?
South Fork,
Okay.
do they have the capacity to meet the criteria for the 5 to 8 years until the backbone is finished?
I don't know. I don't know.
So
the answer.
that was one question I had.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to it.
Yeah,
You may or may
okay.
not want to know, but that was the question. The next question was Kaiser Hospital. That used to be on our system. We transferred it to Sunrise years ago. I don't know what the piping is for that, whether it comes off of our pipe still or off of somebody else's pipes. It's going to change that, so just an FYI. Okay?
So the Kaiser, my understanding of the
It
body.
comes off Sunrise.
Yeah, it comes off of
Okay,
Sunrise.
So that didn't get fully switched?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
It's not always Billy.
And then the other thing to note on the south side and the South Fork supply and water, these are, the water system master plan looks at your distribution and storage, so it looks at the stuff that we control. And so, yeah, would they have enough capacity on their plant to do that? Presumably, yes, but, you know, in the future, so.
They haven't made any of the improvements they've been supposed to make in the last 10 years. So.
That's right.
But again, the master plan looks more at our distribution system and storage and stuff, so.
Yeah, but until we get the backbone, we're 100% reliant on what they do. So, yeah, keep thinking that one day they'll actually have a plan. So. But maybe we won't care soon. So. Okay. That's it. So let's open the nominations for president. I'd like to nominate Hugh Kalani for president. Anybody else?
I'll second. How do
Okay.
you feel about that?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Sure.
I was actually gonna nominate Bill, but he up and left.
You know what? I was gonna nominate Bill. We have the same idea.
Yeah, well,
That's
but,
scary.
and so we screwed both of us, okay?
That's funny.
Oh, geez. Okay, so, I guess there's no really need for a vote, so,
Well,
we'll vote.
you do need to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, nominations are open for secretary. You wanna be secretary? You learn a lot. I'm serious.
What does it entail? I
Well,
want a job
so the
description.
cool thing about it is you go to the agenda setting meetings, right, and you get to see how that whole thing goes together. And there's nothing you have to do except for be watching what the, so what happens is you've been seeing the notices come out for
Right.
agenda items. So we just, if there's something comes up, we send it to you, you make sure we talk to it.
Oh, I get to be retired.
Yeah, it's an extra meeting, another $50. There you go.
Second?
Yeah. All in favor of having Sherry be our secretary? Aye?
It's not that bad. You do have to take over the meetings if David's not here.
Yeah.
I mean, if
No,
Hugh's not here.
Hugh's not here.
Hugh's not, so-
Oh.
Uh-oh.
And I'm gonna-
Hard on her.
And I'm gonna nominate Naomi for treasurer.
Sure.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You pass that to him. Thanks.
All right, you take control.
That's it.
Go you.
Does he know? Commissioner Kalani?
Kalani, we can now have the.
Action item 1, bud.
Yeah, it's all I do.
item 1.
Actually, 2.
2.
I got you all the way down to 2.
2.
Oh, we have to vote on that, huh? Yep.
Or do we
Did
just
we vote on it
nominate?
before?
We have to have three of them?
Yeah.
Three of them.
Well,
Well, I'll stay on it,
I'll do it.
okay.
Cool.
One more.
You a third?
You can do it.
You wanna stay on the CRWSC?
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. So, someone needs to make a motion then.
I move that, or do you have to move since I'm one of the people? I guess it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter, make a motion.
I move that Commissioner Anger, Commissioner French, and Commissioner Kalani be appointed to the CRWSC.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Want to vote for yourself?
It's not a bad thing, it's only a quarterly meeting.
I know.
Yeah, very good.
Then we-
So can we wait on assignments?
Why?
Yeah. I-
Well,
Yeah.
until we get another commissioner.
Yeah,
Just
when
in-
that's,
Well,
Has anybody applied?
something may freeze over before somebody decides to apply.
can
for that.
I, do we just stay on what we are, because right now I'm on the Regional Waters Providers Consortium,
Yeah.
more than happy to stay
Yeah,
on.
just stay where you are. And then if we want to switch later, we can just switch later.
Yeah,
if somebody wants to.
no, I'm happy with that, I was,
Yeah, in your board policies, it says at least annually, you'll review the various assignments, and then commissioners may volunteer for assignments. And so, and if nobody volunteers, the board president can make that assignment, so.
and
So if there is no interest in changing, then,
have we gotten any applications for board members?
so we have one so far.
Oh, good.
Oh, really?
Good, we actually have one, that's great.
Yeah. Hope he doesn't chicken out.
He or she.
Or he or she, whatever.
Hope it doesn't pick it out.
All right,
Okay, now we're on.
So I have a question, is anybody, so South Fork moved their meeting dates, so I was gonna try to start going, but I was gonna talk to you guys before I go, because I don't wanna say something I shouldn't, so. Is there anything that I need to know before I go to those things? I'm not even sure
as it
they're having.
relates to South Florida?
Yeah, I'm not even sure they're having meetings in the summertime, a lot of
Yeah, I
times
was
they
gonna say, a
cancel
lot of
those.
times-
Usually they don't.
Yeah, usually they don't.
They don't.
Right, they don't
meet during
start
the
until
summer.
October.
They actually, I think, only meet like 3 times a year.
Do they? Is that what it comes down to?
That's what it looks like on their website.
Yeah,
anyway.
well, you can't tell from the website, because they're late on putting stuff up.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Should we-
Yeah, I do too. Until we're, I mean, I think we need to know what's going on.
Should we have somebody though on Sunrise, since we're so closely?
Oh, we're Commissioner Blast.
Yeah, Bill-
So
Bill-
if somebody's
That's right.
interested in,
I'll do it.
okay, are you okay with that?
That's fine. Glad to see somebody in there.
I'm glad for signature. Well, you'll learn more. And we're, you know, we are, let's face it, very closely associated with Sunrise, so somebody should be there to represent us in
Right.
good faith, so.
Yep, I agree.
I did have a question about one of the organizations, and we can wait till we get it moved. Clackamas River Basin Council. You said you don't have anyone on that. What does that involve?
You know, I don't think we've had anybody on it for a long
Not in
time.
Then maybe it doesn't matter then.
Yeah, I mean.
I don't remember anybody
At
from,
least, I know at one point you had, boy, this is back to like Bruce one, or not Bruce, it's been a while.
Not since I've been on.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say. it's
In that
probably
case, guess we can live without it.
is that the one that, wanted to use a piece of our property?
been- Yep,
Oh, okay.
Well, they're the ones that had the dinner.
yes. they
And I
have
think
that
there is
handled
somebody
there.
from Sunrise on it.
There probably are.
Ron Blake
Ron Blake
Yeah,
has
Ron
worked
Blake.
with them
That's it,
a long,
Ron Blake did it.
time. I don't know if he's still
Yeah.
involved.
A lot of times with the basin council, we'll have like a water district representative. And so I think he probably pulls that role.
Okay.
But I'll be honest, I haven't done much checking on that. Okay,
Oh, you, anybody else? Any questions? Then we're on agenda item number 4.
so we'll need a motion for that one.
Yeah. I move to approve recurring purchases for fiscal year 2018-19 that are $50,000 over for the attached list.
Second.
Carol, will give the report.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is our annual presentation to you of our recurring payments that exceed the general manager's financial authority. These are based, the numbers that I provided in the report are based on estimates. So we looked at how much we spent this past year. We calculate things based on whatever the new rates are that we have now been presented. The majority of these are routine expenditures that do exceed the $50,000 limit. Some of them are based on intergovernmental agreements. I've also included our bond payments for both the Series 2009 and the Series 2016. Some of them are set by collective bargaining, or they're set by the state, or we have specific contracts with some of the vendors. So one of the examples is PGE. We spend a lot of money on electricity to keep the water treatment plant running and to keep the pump stations going so that we can deliver water to our customers. We don't have a lot of leeway in negotiating a rate with PGE, but we get the bills from them, and rather than, as we approach that $50,000, then coming to the board and asking for it, we kind of include that in this list at the beginning of the year. We also have payments to PERS. The number that's in the estimate include both the employer and the employee share. Medical and dental premiums the same way. So while we are withholding money from employees' paychecks, it's easier just to grab that big round number that includes both sides. I've included the general liability insurance and, as I said before, our debt service payments.
So the wheeling charges number, is that the new number or the old number?
We still don't know exactly what the new number is, so that's a rough estimate.
Okay.
When we have that number and when we begin paying that, then we will certainly bring that to the board's attention.
Thank you.
So we also have some that are greater than $50,000 that are on awarded contracts, which the board has either approved or been advised of. We don't include construction in progress numbers, so the big contracts for like the 152nd, because obviously that involves discussion with the board and bidding and all that. So those will be brought to you throughout the year as they occur. But we do have like our on-call construction contracts. We have some surveying contracts and other things that are for our operations that we do include in the list. And so again, awarded contracts, we've got water purchases, we've got the joint users, we've got Southport, we have legal, we have bank charges, and some other things that we know are gonna exceed that limit. So again, I've also provided a list that's those items that are between $25,000 and $50,000. And this is per our local contract review board rules that the board is notified or noticed of these. So we go through again prior year and see what vendors fall into that range. We kind of look at plans going into the future and say, well, we know we're going to do this, so we'll add some of those. And some of those things include our annual audit contract, phone services, security, IT services, and maintenance agreements with various vendors, like our financial software, we have an annual maintenance. So those are also included on your list of that $25,000 to $50,000. So you've got the list in front of you. If you have any questions about any of those things, I'd be happy to address those.
I see on here where we're leasing a Ford F-150, good choice, by the way, for $38,000 a year. Why don't we just buy the vehicle?
Well, it's not a $38,000 a year. That's a purchase, and that includes all of the boxes, lights, all of that
okay.
stuff. But
Okay,
rather,
so
Camp
equipped
chassis,
Ford F,
yeah.
okay.
but rather than buying it, we are putting that on our enterprise fleet management
Okay.
system.
Okay.
But accounting rules, we have to book the whole thing now
Right.
instead of a liability, and then we just pay for it monthly.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Okay, let's vote on the motion.
I move to approve recurring purchases
Hold on,
for,
hold on.
sorry,
We're voting on the last one.
which one?
We already have. Motion.
Oh, no, he has the
Hey, hold
motion.
on.
Motion, Tom.
Yes,
Yeah.
you've given the motion,
Yeah.
so you all take roll if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
We're not done before.
Commissioner Anger?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Agenda item 5.
Okay. I move to award professional services contract to Kennedy Jenks Consultants for construction period engineering services for the Hatton Road Pump Station project with a not-to-exceed amount of $544,431 and authorize the general manager to sign the completed contract.
Second.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm happy to say that the design on the half pump station is substantially complete. We're going to be bidding that shortly. Probably the next couple of weeks, we'll actually advertise for bids, I should say. And then a few weeks after that, we'll be opening bids on that project. So, similarly to what we did on the 2 reservoir projects, both the second and Redland reservoirs, we're recommending utilizing the services of the design engineers, in this case Kennedy Jenks Consultants, who we hired to do the design work for the Hatton Pump Station, to perform construction engineering services, construction management services for the construction part of the project. And keep in mind that we've yet to bid the actual construction work for the project, but this will get us a firm in place that can provide a number of services for the construction period. I itemized those on the agenda, and just to kind of summarize through what they'll be providing. And I wanted to bring a few of these to your attention because they're a little bit different. As you can imagine, the scope's a little different than the reservoir projects, where again, we're doing a similar thing with Murray Smith engineers. But for the pump station project, of course, there'll be the bid period services and continuing to work with the county on wrapping up a couple of the permits, which we're actually very close on finalizing, addressing the comments from the county on the development permit for the project. So that will carry through. The construction period services include kind of the commonplace stuff, the submittal reviews, all the material reviews that the contractor submits. We'll have the engineering firm do those and then make recommendations to us, and then we concur with their findings. Of course, meetings, inspection is a huge one on this one. Having a firm in place that not only they are the design firm, so they're intimately familiar with the design and layout of the project, but it obviously relieves CRW staff to be focusing on other things. So while we will have CRW staff present, it won't be 24/7. We'll have a few times a week or so. We'll have myself or someone else out there observing. But again, not to the extent that this firm, the actual firm, doing the daily inspection, photos, inspection of quality assurance control work that the inspectors perform. So that's going to be a big help.
Adam, have we closed on the property?
Pardon?
Have we closed on the property?
The property, that's a good question. The property has not yet been closed on, but the reason for that is that the partition application has to go through the county first, so that they can issue the plat. So that is.
So is that the clerk?
Correct. The partition application is in. That's typically a 60-day process, so it's in process as we speak. So that will, we can go ahead and move forward with completing design, bidding the project, and we're anticipating that that's going to line up fairly close to when the partition will be approved, and then the purchase made.
So do we have a right of entry now?
We have a right of entry for our easement
Yeah.
that the board approved. About the same time the property purchase was approved. So that holds for the access, but we won't go start any
Yes,
construction
building it.
until we go to the property.
They can go beyond the property.
Right. A couple other things that I wanted to bring out, just the range of disciplines that are involved with a project like this. There's obviously the civil site work and layout, the piping work, the architectural components of a structure, a pump station, mechanical, HVAC and all that. Electrical is obviously a huge component, and that's a fairly substantial piece of this proposal. About 22% is the electrical work. And RMW Engineering is the subcontractor, or the sub-consultant with Kennedy Jenks that's done the electrical design for us on this. So they'll also be performing a big, about 20% piece of this service to get us through, again, construction of electrical systems, working with PGE on the service installation, working with PGE on the dispatchable power program, which we know now is picking up speed again, which for a bit there, we weren't sure if this generator we're putting on this pump station would be get on board with the DSG program. Now it looks like we will, so that's real positive. And at some point later, I'll be bringing probably an agreement back with PGE, similar to the one we have with our treatment plant generator. And that will also include some capital value for the district, because there is a cost component that PGE contributes.
Does the line inspection cost agreement go with the DGE?
It will be separate.
Usually it's separate.
It
Yeah.
will be.
The reason I ask it is that I have breakfast with the engineers from DG here all the time. And just so you know, they're shuffling engineers all the time. There's a guy every couple of weeks. It's just nuts. And so,
Yeah, very, very aware.
yeah, and that's really frustrating for people that are trying to do projects.
Right, right.
You know, I've told them, I said, come on, somebody's got to, pick this job and take it till it's done and stuff. I mean, the breaker for the sub for that area, it's got a huge problem. We can use it at any minute and they have no backup. And so that's a real problem that they're trying to deal with right now, and they just haven't, I mean, they've been looking at it for over a year and they still don't have a solution, so that doesn't bode well for, that's why these generators and these new stations are so critical, so.
Yeah, they are quite interested, just on the side again for the dispatchable standby generation program. They are very interested in the site because of that.
Yeah,
Because of
they don't have anything in that part of the world.
And they told us that even though we'd be, fourth or fifth in line in the queue with DSG, all of the facilities ahead of us are existing facilities, so they're retrofits. It takes longer to permit those and fit in, with the generator. So a new facility like ours would rise towards the top and get addressed sooner from that perspective. So that's really promising.
Yeah.
But back to Kennedy Jenks, just again, kind of itemizing where we are in the cost range. We're not too far out, about 29% when you look at the total estimated construction cost at this point, and this proposal for construction management of $544,000. So it is a little bit on the higher end of the range, but I wanted to point out why, which again, the amount of time that they're going to spend for us in actual inspection work on site, that does weigh in man hours to the proposal. But again, it's a definite plus for the district, so that staff can be focused elsewhere. The electrical engineering services I already mentioned. And then there's also a component in here, which we don't always do, but we opted to do it this time, just partly out of convenience, partly out of ease, to let the consultant take care of the special inspection services. If you recall, on the reservoir projects, we hired, happened to be PSI, the same special inspection firm that's in this proposal, to do the code-related structural type special inspections that are required for the permits. Rather than contract that separately, we still have the cost to bear. We rolled it into this contract with Kennedy Jenks, so they would contract the firm on their own, take care of all that administratively, and then that also helps on the coordination side. When that inspection is needed, they're working directly with the special inspector and the contractor to make sure that those happen on time and are properly completed. So, that's kind of it in a nutshell. We're excited to get the project going, and yes, the property partition and the property components are in the schedule and forward.
Any questions?
Yeah, when do you look to bid the work?
I would hope to be bidding 2 to 3 weeks out. Well, advertising, I should say, 2 to 3 weeks out. So that puts us into mid-August,
Yeah,
opening bids.
be a good project for somebody.
Yes.
Anything else? Time to vote.
Commissioner Ranger?
Yes?
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Colony?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks, Adam.
Agenda item CA1. Gross payroll and accounts paid. That's, we just,
You can do all the consent
Yeah,
agenda items.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. So
You want to call the question?
yes, no question. So that goes through
That takes all of those CAs.
CAs.
Yeah, all the CAs.
okay.
So we have the, I'm just looking for the, oh, here it is, the more, I was looking for the more.
Yeah, it's all there.
Yeah, I got it.
Yep.
Sure. Okay,
So we need to vote. What?
Yep.
Ready?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ranger?
here, yes,
Commissioner French?
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Agenda item 6, management report.
All right, so in your folders, you have your monthly updates.
yes.
So I'll point that out again. For the meeting, we're talking about river flow, so I'll just point out, we do put in a chart on the back of the page that kind of shows where we're at with river flow. Obviously, it's not a great story right at the moment, so we'll keep tracking that as we move along. Also, in your packet is an article that I want to make sure you're aware of. Obviously, the cyanotoxin issue continues to be in the news. Recently, the Oregon Health Authority has proposed some temporary rules that we now have that are in effect and that we comply with. And so there was an article in the Statesman Journal that Suzanne DiLorenzo was quoted in. And so since the CRW staff person's quoted in it, I want to make sure you're aware of that. And then you've already got the new backbone schedule. As far as, just to highlight a couple things in the report, as I mentioned, cyanotoxins have been quite the discussion point the last month or two. So at the CRWP, we've kind of reaffirmed where we're at as it relates to our coordination and planning. And so one of the things we did do is discuss how do these temporary rules impact our testing program. And so we're trying to make sure we're coordinating, because right now there's our standard testing program associated with unregulated contaminant monitoring rule 4. There's the CRWP process that we've got, and now we got these new temporary rules. What we're trying to do is coordinate them where we can be efficient with this testing as opposed to just
OHA
doing
doesn't
a
do it that
bunch.
way.
So we're trying.
No, OHA just doesn't do it that way.
So the interesting part is that there's different testing requirements too for the different processes, and so how we're trying to match that up. So we're trying to coordinate as a region as it relates to that. As it relates to the Regional Water Providers Consortium, again, that was a considerable topic in the region, so coordination on a broader level of the region. But I did think it was valuable also to point out that we've also started talking about the summer supply issues and start with some of the messaging on a more regional level as well, just making sure that people understand that you know, some areas are experiencing lower flow already. So that's obviously something we talked about in the Clackamas Basin. I will point out Portland, I think it's interesting. I think this is the second earliest that they've started augmenting their supply with groundwater.
They started theirs in May.
Yeah, no, it's the second earliest I think they've ever started. And so, and so they have a pretty significant decline. The reservoir's filled, but they had a rapid decline of those reservoirs early on. So they're
So-
projecting that they're fine.
So are we getting complaints about odor in the water?
We haven't, I haven't, yeah, okay, yeah. It's
Good.
really
You see,
quiet.
because we do at our place. So in the hot water, you can smell the algae smell already.
Yeah, I
And that's
don't,
why I was wondering if we would get that from our plant.
so, yeah, we haven't heard anything from a customer service.
Nothing from
standpoint
customers, no.
or from, and Suzanne.
Good job, Rob.
hasn't. Yeah, keep it going.
Keep it up.
Keep it going.
How do we get it up to you guys?
Yeah, we're working on that, we're working on that. So Portland Supply, you know, they're given kind of a thumbs up that they'll have an adequate supply, and then on the west side, they're saying they're golden, and so with their reservoirs being full and so on, so they're indicating no concerns at all on that's kind of messaging that they'll do. However, that said, we still recognize the importance of making sure that people understand where the water comes from and why there may be different messages from different news from the source, and so we'll continue to work on that.
Isn't Portland actually better off because they have fewer customers?
Well, they still have the customer, I mean, the only customers that they've lost at this point is the City of Tiger.
Right.
And so, but the rest of them are still, they haven't lost any additional customers from that perspective. They are, you know, one of the things that Portland does offer is, they offer these uninterruptible contracts with certain of the wholesalers.
Mhm.
They've actually been talking about, which is a provision in those contracts to tell them, well, you can't have the water. And so that's gonna be a discussion that'll happen actually probably this month. Where they'll have to figure out, are they gonna sell that additional water to some of their wholesalers, or are they gonna tell their other wholesalers to go someplace else, which presumably that'll be to go west. And so I want from the Joint Water Commission for those folks to exercise those contracts. So it'll be interesting. It's the first time they've ever done that under this contract scenario, so we'll see what they do. Let's see, just skipping ahead, just some miscellaneous things. We did have some property damage as it related to the Mather Reservoir, so unfortunately vehicle created some damage in the area that we've since repaired. Unfortunately, it was a vehicle that did the damage and then got away, and we don't have any reports on it. So
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate part. I also thought it'd be good to note presentations. Our water quality manager, Suzanne De Lorenzo, has had a chance to present, obviously, the whole cyanotoxin issue has been a big thing, and sharing information about what CRW is doing and what we're doing with the other water providers in this area of the watershed has been a popular topic, so she's had a chance to present a couple times on that. Staffing items, just we've already kind of noted Bob's retirement, but then I've had him helping us out a little bit on the water system master plan, but just want to point out that Adam is officially, and Winstead's officially in the role of chief engineer, and so far no major problems since July 1, right?
Have any regrets?
Yeah. Don't ask him that. That's not. And then just looking ahead, we do have our July work session for July 23rd, and I will also be out of the office. Got some hit and miss vacation days coming up that are listed in your management report there as well. And then we also talked a little bit about the commissioner vacancy process. Like I said, we do have one application. I guess one question I would throw out to the board is if we've promoted kind of in the North Clackamas Chamber newsletter, we put it on our website. What we haven't done is we haven't done anything in the newspaper or with the newspaper, so I don't know if there's interest in.
Is for me, I really would like to see something from the north part of the district, if we could.
So if you're no objections, we'll do something with the newspaper.
I think the Clackamas review.
Yeah, the Clackamas
Yeah.
review would be the appropriate.
So when are we gonna have our budget thing?
That's the July meeting, so
That's
that's a
what I
great segue. So July 23rd work session, we have our board member duties and responsibilities, part 2, so Jeff Griffin will be here. And we'll also have our budget committee folks also have been invited to go through the budget update that Carol will put on that during that meeting as well. And your typical commissioner communications and the update items. And then based on our discussion earlier, we'll also try to schedule an exec session after that to talk about property issues.
So will you have Lee there? Go.
Presumably, yeah.
Okay.
With the commissioner openings, what was our deadline?
So we kept the last we talked is the application process, we'll keep it open through the end of this month, so to the end of July. And then we'll compile that information
Well, I
make
just, yeah.
sure that you have copies of it for your August board meeting, and then at your August board meeting, you tell us what you want to, how to proceed.
Oh, so yeah.
Or did you want to, if we
Well, I'm
had
just
people,
thinking
we could do it at the.
What I just was thinking that if we're putting it in the newspaper, that doesn't give us a lot of time.
Yeah, only gives you about
Yeah.
a week and a half or so by the time it actually gets in the, because, yeah.
Right, yeah, so there wouldn't really be a lot of time for people to
it's a bad time, nobody's
Yeah.
going places, so.
So August would be when we would discuss what we want to do at that point, or do you think we would,
At least that's the process that we talked about
Yeah,
the last
okay.
time. If you wanted, there's nothing that says if we wanted to sneak in an extra week or something, that we keep the process open instead of the end of the month, that we keep it open, say, August 12th. I would maybe extend that,
well, it just seems like if you're gonna bother putting it in the paper, it just
What's the
doesn't seem
9th?
like there's a lot of
August
time.
9th.
for it.
August 9th is the,
So where does that show up in the paper? I can't honestly tell you where I would go to look for it in that newspaper.
Caution?
So, good question. It could either be an article that they do, we could do like a press release type of thing and see if they do that. Or we actually
The chamber just put
buy
it
an
in.
ad.
Yeah, the chamber just put it in the newsletter, so everybody got it.
Yeah.
So they might do an article, they're always looking for articles, the Clackamas Review, you know. They'll do an article on just about anything, so,
What do you say?
They used to do it every week.
Or more if there was news.
Yeah.
I just think the Clackamas, if you did a press release, they probably would run it.
So maybe we'll just try a quick press release.
And then I would make a motion that maybe we extend the deadline for 2 weeks.
So, that'll get you past your meeting, your board meeting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was incorrect on the date. So your August board meeting is August 9th.
Yeah.
And so we're already keeping it open to the 31st if you
Well,
wanted
it's
to.
whatever people think,
Well, they can also put their applications after their packet,
Yeah,
so we aren't tied to that deadline too. You could get them maybe the first part of that week rather than the prior week.
yeah. So if we want to extend it to August 6th, then we compile, that gives people on the weekends, submit something, and then we just get you the applications as soon as we can. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll extend it to August 6th,
okay.
and then we'll get a news press release. And that's all I have.
Agenda item 8.
Yeah.
There's no motion required.
Right.
Commissioners report. Any reports? Any questions? Anything? Has everybody turned in their, I don't know.
They're new forms. That, the new form sent out Terrence Good.
I haven't turned mine in, so I guess I shouldn't be talking about it.
No, you turned in a slew of them, actually.
Well, I did, but I left out this month. Well, actually, my good friend helped me out a lot on that one.
Okay, I guess you could adjourn.
Anything else? Adjourn.
Right?
Thank you.